Good morning, students. Direct retainers, part 2. So, direct retainers, we have already seen what are intracoronal retainers. In that, precision attachments and semi-precision attachments. So, coming to part 2, we are dealing with extracoronal retainers. So, in extracoronal retainers, again, they are divided into extracoronal attachments and retentive clasp assemblies. So extracoronal attachments are similar to intracoronal attachments, where attachment consists of matrix and patrix. These components are present or placed entirely outside the normal clinical contours of abutment teeth. So, when the direct retainer is positioned on the outside of the clinical contours of the tooth, they are known as extracoronal retainers. So, in the extracoronal attachments, these matrix and patrix components are positioned outside the tooth component, and they permit vertical movements during occlusal load. So, these serve as stress breakers, as stress relievers. These about extracoronal attachment, it will be deal in later part of your other chapters. So in this chapter we will be more concerned about clasp, or commonly known as retentive clasp assemblies. So coming to extracoronal retainers, the most common extracoronal retention is given by retentive clasp assemblies. So when you are writing about direct retainers, you will be more dealing about clasp. Okay, we commonly call it clasp. Clasp consists of different components. All these components are termed as clasp assemblies. Okay, so this clasp assembly is positioned on the outside of the abutment teeth. So depending on the area where these components are placed, they provide retention, stabilization, and support. Depending on the area of the tooth, it is contacted. If the clasp assembly are placed on the occlusal third, they provide support. If they are positioned on the middle third of the tooth, they provide stabilization. If the component of the clasp assembly which is placed on the gingival third of the abutment teeth, they provide retention. Okay, so we are more common in direct retainers. Our retention is provided by the gingival third of the tooth. So to explain this properly, Prothero has described a theory. This is known as Prothero's cone theory in 1916. What the Prothero has suggested is the clinical contours or clinical crowns of premolars and molars are represented as a cones. So you know what is a cone. Cone consists of a base in the tip. Okay. Okay. These premolars and molars he compared as two cones. Two cones, upper cone, lower cone. When these two cones are combined or stick with their bases, okay, stick at the bases, two cones are combined at the base of the cones. So one cone is positioned, the tip of one cone is positioned upward, the tip of other cone is positioned downward. See, the junction at the base, or the area where the two cone bases are combined. So we can see that is the area of greater circumference or greater diameter. Kennedy has termed that this greater diameter as height of contour. Okay, So Prothero has put forward a Prothero cone theory, and the term height of contour, where the greater circumference of the tooth is identified. It is known as height of contour, as given by Edward Kennedy. Okay, see, two cones with base, common base. This area is known as height of contour. So now D1 has again given two terms such as suprabulge area, infrabulge area. The position or the area of the tooth converging occlusal or incisal to the height of contour is known as suprabulge area. So height of contour, if we consider as a bulge area, bulky area, the tooth portion above this bulk area or bulge area is known as suprabulge area, and the portion of the tooth which is converging apically from the height of contour is known as infrabulge area. This is suprabulge area, position above the height of contour, infrabulge area, position below the height of contour. So on a tooth surface, to obtain retention, the direct retainer has to be positioned in the infrabulge area, or commonly termed as undercut, to gain retention. See, with the help of an instrument known as dental surveyor, which will be discussed in further classes. So with the help of a surveyor, when you survey the tooth, okay, the area of greater diameter will be identified. Okay, so the portion of the tooth above it is known as suprabulge area. The portion of the tooth below the height of contour is known as infrabulge area. So this infrabulge area we have undercut. So the part of the clasp assembly, that is clasp, return to clasp tip or return to clasp terminal, should be positioned in the undercut area to gain retention. So right now you remember, return to arm terminal or return to arm tip is positioned in the undercut area to gain retention. So according to how the clasp approaches the undercut area, basically the clasp assemblies are categorized into suprabulge clasp and infrabulge clasp. In suprabulge clasp, see this, the clasp part of the clasp are started at the occlusal surface and reach the undercut area from the occlusal surface. So these are known as occlusally approaching clasp or suprabulge clasp, commonly termed as Acre's clasp or circumferential clasp. Okay, two types of clasp are occlusally approaching clasp or circumferential clasp or C clasp. Other type of clasp assembly is where the undercut area is reached from the gingiva. From the gingival side, the undercut is approached. This is known as gingivally approaching clasp or infrabulge clasp. They occupy the undercut from the infrabulge portion, or they are known as roach clasp or bar clasp. These commonly known as C clasp or occlusally approaching clasp, or bar clasp or gingivally approaching clasp. So coming to clasp assembly, each clasp consists of different components. They are all segregated into clasp assembly. So clasp assembly consists of rest, body, shoulder, okay, reciprocal arm, return to terminals, minor connector, approach arm, and return to arm terminal. So these G and H belongs to infrabulge or bar clasp. These components belong to C clasp. Description of each component. Rest. as already rest seat class is over, the rest provide support for the process. Support means it prevent tissue-ward or gingival-ward movement of the process. So rest is positioned on a prepared area of the tooth. That is known as rest seat. Rest is positioned in the rest seat. It can be positioned on the occlusal surface of molars and premolars, or on the cingulum surface of canines, or on the incisal surfaces. They are known as incisal rest. So rest is a part of clasp that lies on the occlusal, lingual or incisal surface of the teeth and resists tissue-ward movement of the clasp. So it prevents any tissue-ward movement of the clasp. So it is provides support. Clasp rest provides support. Okay. Next, body of the clasp. Body of the clasp is a part of the clasp that connects the rest and the shoulder. See, if we take a body, so these are the arms. So body connects the arms with the help of a shoulder. Okay. So the part of the clasp that connects the rest and shoulder of the clasp to the minor connector is known as body of the clasp. Shoulder. So this is the rest, the body, this is the shoulder. The shoulder connects the arms to the remaining part of the body. Shoulder is the part of the clasp that connects the body of the clasp terminals. So this shoulder is positioned above the height of contour. This position above the height of contour and provide stabilization against horizontal displacement of process. Okay. So shoulder connects body to the clasp terminals and it is positioned above the height of contour and it provides stabilization. Shoulder provides stabilization. Now coming to, you can see there are two arms. So among these, one is known as reciprocal arm, other is known as retentive arm. Retentive arm provides retention, whereas reciprocal arm, what is the purpose of reciprocal arm? We will be discussing later. The reciprocal arm is a rigid clasp arm placed above the height of contour on the side of the tooth opposing the retentive clasp arm. So for example, retentive arm is positioned on the buccal surface of the tooth. Okay. Retentive arm is positioned on the buccal surface of the tooth. On the opposite side, on the lingual side, the reciprocal arm is positioned. Also, the reciprocal arm is always present above the height of contour. Okay. It provides reciprocation. Now coming to retentive arm. Retentive arm is a part of clasp comprising shoulder. See, from the shoulder, retentive arm starts and it is located above the height of contour. Retentive arm starts from the shoulder and it is positioned above the height of contour. Now, retentive terminal. Terminal means the tip of the retentive arm. The tip of the retentive arm is known as retentive terminal. It is the terminal end of retentive clasp arm. It is the only component of removable partial denture that lies on the tooth cervical to the height of contour. So, the entire clasp assembly, only the retentive clasp terminal or the retentive arm tip only lies below the height of contour or in the undercut area, also known as infrabulge area. It possesses a certain degree of flexibility and offers property of direct retention. So, when anyone asks, the part of clasp assembly which has some flexibility is known as retentive clasp tip or retentive arm terminal. Only the retentive arm terminal is flexible, which runs over the height of contour and settles into the undercut area. Minor connector. It is the part of clasp that joins the body of the clasp. The part of the clasp which joins the body of the clasp to the remaining part of the framework of process, and it must be rigid. Coming to bar clasp. This is approach arm. It is a component of bar clasp. It is a type of minor connector that projects from framework, runs along the mucosa, and turns to cross the gingival margin of the abutment teeth to approach the undercut from gingival direction. The approach arm connects the return to terminal of bar clasp to the remaining part of the framework. So this is the clasp assembly. So you have return to arm terminal, reciprocal arm, rest, body of the clasp. This is a shoulder and minor connector. Now, what are the requirements of a clasp assembly? Coming to the requirements of clasp assembly, it consists of it requires retention, stability, support, reciprocation, encirclement, passivity. So when you are giving a or when you are designing or when you are fabricating a clasp, you should keep in mind all these functions has to be reached. So encirclement. So when you are designing any clasp, we should see that the clasp should encircle or embrace the tooth, abutment teeth more than 180 degrees. So if we consider abutment teeth in 360 degrees, the clasp should engage the abutment or embrace or encircle the abutment teeth more than 180 degrees. Okay, so if clasp holds the teeth more than 180 degrees, the abutment teeth will not slip away from the clasp assembly. Okay, so the how the clasp encircles the teeth, it can be of continuous contact or it can be of discontinuous contact. The clasp can encircle the tooth more than 180 degrees either in continuous pattern or in discontinuous pattern. So coming here, so more than 180 degrees of greater circumference of the tooth must be included, passing from diverging axial walls surface to converging axial surface. So, so continuous contact more than 180 degrees can be achieved in a C clasp or Akers clasp. Continuous contact can be obtained, whereas in bar clasp or Roach clasp, so we will see discontinuous contact. This when there is a discontinuous contact, the tooth should be contacted at least in three areas. Tooth should be contacted in three areas, and it should cover more than half the tooth circumference. See here, this is the clasp assembly. See, it is encircling the tooth more than 180 degrees. See here, it covers 270 degrees. So it provides better encirclement. Coming to support, as already we have seen, support is provided by the rest when it is positioned in the rest seat, either occlusally or cingulum area in maxillary canines or in the incisal. So the support given by the rest will prevent the tissue-ward movement of the prosthesis, and also it positions the removed partial denture and its components in its original position. If support is good, all the components will be in their normal position without any dislodgement, and rest provides support, also transmit the occlusal load along the abutment teeth long axis. So the property of the clasp that resists the displacement of the clasp in gingival direction is called support. So primary support is given by the clasp which are present on the occlusal, lingual or the incisal rest. The occlusal rest must be designed so that cervical movement of the clasp arm is prevented. So support is given by occlusal rest. Now reciprocation, we already seen. See, reciprocation. See, when a return to arm is positioned, as we discussed, the tip of the return to arm passes on the greater circumference. As the return to arm tip passes on the greater circumference to reach the undercut area, so as it is passing the height of contour, it pushes the abutment teeth. generate a lateral force. So these lateral forces has to be contracted or has to be nullified. If lateral forces are not nullified, it leads damaging effect on the abutment teeth. So when the clasp is placed or process is placed into the position and removed, always when it is seated and removed, the tip of the retentive arm will be engaging or contacting the greater circumference. When this contact, because of this contact, lateral forces are generated. So all these lateral forces every time has to be nullified. If not, this will cause damaging effect on the abutment teeth. So this contraction is given by the, or reciprocation is given by the retentive, or sorry, reciprocal arm. So each retentive terminal should be opposed by a reciprocal arm capable of resisting any orthodontic pressure exerted by the retentive arm. So whenever retentive arm pushes the abutment teeth, it leads to orthodontic pressures. So reciprocal and stabilizing elements must be rigidly connected bilaterally. So both sides there should be reciprocation and stabilization to prevent any kind of orthodontic movements. This arm is positioned on the opposite side of the tooth from retentive arm. As we discussed, reciprocal arm provides reciprocation. This reciprocation is against the forces generated by retentive arm. So it is positioned opposite to the opposite surface of the tooth to that of retentive arm. And should be located at the junction of gingival and middle third of abutment teeth on the opposite side. So always reciprocal arm is positioned above the height of contour at the junction of middle third and gingival third of the tooth. It plays an important role in stabilization of the denture base to the horizontal forces. To reciprocate the forms properly, it should contact the tooth at the same time or before the retentive arm does. So as we discussed, before the retentive arm contacts the height of contour, before it generates forces, the reciprocal arm should hold the teeth or stabilize the teeth on the opposite side. If not, the damaging forces will create the movement of the abutment teeth. So additional rest is positioned on the opposite side of the tooth and minor connector will provide reciprocation. Sometimes minor connector will provide reciprocation. Reciprocal arm must always be rigid to provide or to counteract the forces. Always reciprocal arm must be rigid and positioned above the height of contour. Reciprocal arm should be positioned on the surface of the tooth that is reasonably parallel to the denture path of insertion and removal. It is not placed on the surface that is tapered occlusally. Retention. So all this direct retainer we are talking about retention. Now how the retention is provided. See this is the retentive arm. Retentive arm and retentive arm terminal or retentive arm tip. So retentive arm can be categorized into three parts. So it starts from the shoulder of the clasp arm. Okay. Then it is middle and shoulder part of the retentive arm position above the height of contour. Only the retentive arm tip will be positioned below the height of contour in the undercut area. Okay. So the path of escapement of each retentive arm terminal should be other than parallel to the path of removal of prosthesis. So when the tip is engaged in the undercut, it should not be easily displaced or it should not be easily come out. If it is coming out during mastication or during eating sticky food, the process will be displaced or dislodging. And there is no retention. So the amount of retention always should be minimum necessary to resist reasonable dislodging forces. So when tip engages the undercut, it should be minimum that it should not be displaced during chewing or mastication. See, retentive arm clasp is divided into three parts which engages or functional requirement. The terminal third is flexible and engages undercut. The middle third has limited degree of flexibility and may engage a minimal amount of undercut. The proximal third or shoulder is rigid and must be positioned above the height of contour. This is the proximal third or shoulder above the height of contour, middle third of return to arm. This is the terminal third of return to arm, which is flexible. Stability. Stability is nothing but displacement or resistance of the process, resistance to displacement of process against horizontal forces. So all the components of clasp which are rigid and positioned above the height of contour provide stability to the process. So all clasps have reciprocal or bracing arm which provides equal amount of stability. All parts except the return to clasp terminal contribute this property in varying degree. So you must remember that except return to clasp tip which is flexible, except that all other parts of clasp assembly are rigid. This rigid component will provide stability for the process. See, example, cast circumferential clasp provides greater amount of stability because its shoulder is rigid and aids in stabilization. Coming to the wrought wire, it will be flexible. So more the flexible, the stability will be less. Bar clasp does not have a shoulder, so provides less stability. So when you compare C clasp and bar clasp, C clasp consists of a shoulder which is rigid, provide greater stability. Bar clasp which does not have shoulder has less stability. Passivity. Passivity means you should not apply any kind of force. So passive. If someone is present passively without any movement or without applying any kind of pressure, it is known as passivity. So you have to remember that when the process is seated completely in its position or when clasp is seated completely in its position, the return to tip which is present in the undercut area should be placed passively. Okay, so return to tip will exert force or will be active only during when it runs over the height of contour, during placement or while during removal. When the tip runs on the height of contour, then only it will be active. Remaining time the tip has to be passive. Okay, the clasp is placed should be completely passive and the retentive function is activated only when dislodging forces are applied to the partial tension. Bilateral opposition. Unless guide planes will positively control the path of removal, retentive clasp should be bilaterally opposed. So you already see that the retentive clasp should be positioned on both sides, on right side and left side of the arch, to provide bilateral opposition. Buccal retention on other or the lingual on one side opposed by the lingual on the other. Okay. So this is end of part 2. So we see remaining in the part 3 of the direct retainers.